So, we're just really excited about Christmas this year. And it seems like every year at Christmas time, I have different folks come to me, and people are concerned about the Christmas tree and setting it up. And is that a pagan thing to do? Is it pagan to set up a Christmas tree? And really, when people start doing these things, they read articles or they're. I'm just going to share some verses from the Bible with you about what people think. Years ago, there was this magazine put up by a man named Jack Chick, and he really believed that the Christmas tree is an idol. And of course, nobody ever attributes Christmas tree to idolatry. There's nobody that prays to Christmas trees. And if they did, I would definitely be against the Christmas tree. But anyway, where did the Christmas tree come from? Where did it originate from? Well, in English culture, the Christmas tree was first introduced and popularized by Prince Albert in 1840. He brought it over from Germany, and it is from a German tradition. And the Tannenbaum is actually the fir tree, and it has to do with eternal life. It really has a Christian message, and I won't go into that, but I just really would like to talk about what Jeremiah chapter 10 says and sort of diffuse this idea that all of a sudden what we're reading in the book of Jeremiah chapter 10 is actually a Christmas tree. It isn't. But I'll just go over it with you just for a moment, if I may. So we're going to start in verse 1 of Jeremiah chapter 10, and here it is. Hear ye the word which the Lord speaketh unto you, O house of Israel. Thus saith the Lord, learn not the way of the heathen, and be not dismayed at the signs of heaven, for the heathen are dismayed at them. So first of all, what you're seeing there, it's reference to astrology. There's nothing about a Christmas tree here. It's about astrology. But then you go on here, and verse 3, for the customs of the people are vain. For one cutteth a tree out of the forest, the work of the hands of the workmen with the axe. They deck it with silver and with gold, and fasten it with nails, with hammers, that it move not. They are upright as of the palm tree, but speak not. Let me ask you, just stop right there. Have you ever heard of a Christmas tree speaking or even having a mouth? No. What is this a reference to? Well, if you see it, it says here in verse 3 again, it says, one cutteth a tree out of the forest, and then it says, the work of the hands of the workmen with the axe. So the idea isn't just cutting down the tree, it's talking about fashioning it into a form. So they would work with an axe, they would cut, like shape it, and then they would set it upright. It says they deck it with silver and with gold. In other words, they would cover it with silver and gold. And then it would have a mouth. So it sounds to me like something that couldn't speak. Obviously, it's an idol. But it was something that was not made as a Christmas tree. It was something that was shaped as an idol. So there's nothing here that even suggests a Christmas tree. And there is no one, to my record, I have never heard of anyone bowing down and praying to a Christmas tree. And when it was first introduced in 1840, there were no Christians that were doing that either, and they don't do that to this day. It's just a beautiful symbol. And we could get into that maybe another time. I'll talk about the symbology of a Christmas tree, because there is some symbology that has in reference to Christ. And so this idea that actually what's spoken here in Jeremiah chapter 10 is actually a Christmas tree, that's just false teaching. It's an idol. It's just an idol that was cut down from a forest, and then they shaped it. And then it says, if you go on here, it says, they are upright as a palm tree, verse 5, but speak not. They must needs to be borne. In other words, they're carried. Okay, it's not like they're just sitting there in a room. They're actually picked up and carried around, because they cannot go. Be not afraid of them, for they cannot do evil, neither also is it in them to do good. So this is something that is shaped, it's covered with gold and silver, it has a mouth, but it cannot speak because it's just a statue, basically. and then they carry it around as a god. And this is what they did in those days. So this is not a reference at all to a Christmas tree. So, if you just look at it as it is, and so what is the prophet saying? Don't be afraid of people that have these things. That is an idol, and the idol, although they attribute some sort of divinity to it, that doesn't mean that you should. So, because if you look at the contrast in verse 6, it says, "For as much as there is none like unto thee, O Lord, thou art great, and thy name is great in might. Who would not fear thee, O King of nations? For to thee doth it appertain. For as much as among all the wise men of the nations, and in all their kingdoms, there is none like unto thee. They are altogether brutish." Now you see, he goes back to this idol, that they're just brutish. In other words, and brutish is another way of saying wrong. It's just, they're ignorant. It's being ignorant. Brutish is being ignorant and foolish, the stock of a doctrine of vanities. And then verse 9, "Silver spread into plates is brought from Tarshish, and gold from Euphaz." So the fineness is laid upon these idols. The work of the workmen and the hands of the founder, blue and purple is their clothing. They are all the work of cunning men. But the Lord is the true God. He is the living God and an everlasting King. And his wrath, the earth shall tremble, and the nation shall not be able to abide his indignation. So once again, the contrast is there. That God is the greatest of all, and that these other things are just idols. So you can't put a Christmas tree in that. And if you try to, then you're just teaching false doctrine. And really, to get down with it, it would be what I would call, and what the Bible calls, a doubtful disputations. And so it's not something that we should build a premise over or try to teach people that this is what a Christmas tree stands for, because it doesn't. Nobody prays to Christmas trees. They stand for Christmas. Everybody knows that. And so it's under attack, and people are wondering, well, the lost are wondering, why is the Christian fighting against his own holiday? Because that's basically what's happening, and it's wrong. It shouldn't happen. And so we're going to have Christmas trees. We're going to have Christmas. God bless you. Thank you for listening. Bye-bye.